guys. So, have you ever tried urban exploring? You see, your training always happens in the laboratory, but you realize that life happens in context. There's always context. And when you're dealing with context, you're generally going to be dealing with the area surrounding where you live and train, not the place where you live and train. It's good to get out of the gym every once in a while and go explore what's around you. Now, I have to say I am fortunate to live in Phoenix, where it's comfortable to be outside the grand majority of the year, where even on the hot days the sun goes down early enough that I've still got shade in the evenings for evening training. Because did you know that the sun goes down earlier in the southwest? Strange. Not that strange. It's astrophysics. I also happen to live in a city. It's in the top 10 cities in the country as far as size goes. So I've got a lot of opportunity around. Those of you who live in places like New York and Boston, LA, and wherever else should have similar, if not greater, opportunity dealing with urban structures and whatnot. There's rails and walls and ditches and ramps and parking garages everywhere. There's a parking garage down the street that's fundamentally got stall bars, and I can practice my human flag, which is not very good. But it's good training to get out into the environment and start exploring. It's also good tactical training to get to know the environment that you live in. Parkour was founded on the idea that you should be able to move and move well through the environment to overcome any obstacles. And because we know for a fact that the majority of chaos that happens in our lives, the majority of accidents and interruptions and violence that happens in our lives happens in or near the home, you should get intimately detailed and acquainted with your surrounding area. Now, I live very close to where I work. I live only a few miles from where I train. There are numerous parks. There's a lot of streets. You walk for 5 miles in any direction and you'll find something. Now, I come from a very small town in southern Maine, and there was stuff there. Playgrounds, there were still banks and libraries and stuff. There just weren't parking garages and all that. But you know what we had in place of that? We had the woods, we had mountains. In Phoenix here we do have mountains. We don't have the woods so much. But, you don't always have to think of it in terms of corporate structures or modern, stable structures. You can think of it in terms of nature as well. Find a way to train. You can still work all those primal patterns. You're pushing and pulling and squatting and lunging, bending and twisting, jumping, running, kicking, screaming, backflipping, goatseeing, whatever. And you can always turn it into a good training time. In fact, I've got a little course that I like to take where there's a few favorite objects that I can reliably play on to get some repetition type training in. But it's fun to just go off in a random direction. How often do you do that? How often do you park your car or walk out your front door and just go, I'm going that way? And then you go. And you go for half hour, an hour, 2 hours. Now, it's a good idea that you should have, a map, a compass, a GPS, smartphone, whatever, something on you if you're not that inclined to keep track of your directions. But the idea is to not use that stuff and get acquainted with the area. If all you have is the suburbs and there's nothing suitable, do you have a curb? Elevated shrimp squats. Do you have a car? Put the car in neutral and push it. You can always do push-ups just about anywhere. You have a wall? Practice your handstand if you're not good at doing a handstand freeform. Is it sturdy enough that you can do a wall run? Even if it's too high for you to grab at the top, you can practice your wall run and shooting up as high as you can, kicking off the wall. Do you have a corner? You have a corner, you can try the Jackie Chan, bouncing back and forth between the two. There's all sorts of things you can do. If you have uneven surfaces, try four-legged movement, quadrupedal movement, QM. Try it over things. Do you have something that's between knee and waist high, or even a little taller if you're ambitious? You can practice vaulting or leaping. There are all sorts of things you can do. It's necessary to have the laboratory. It is necessary to do strict movement. It is necessary to do things in a controlled and scalable fashion, but it is just as necessary to get out there and go do your thing. Because if you don't, it's all artificial. You've got to be able to apply the skills in context. That's all I got for you. Talk to you guys later. Good journey.